And let me tell you something that most people will never fully grasp. Your destiny is not written in the stars. It's written in your decisions, not in your circumstances, not in your background, not in what someone else did or didn't do. Right now, this moment, you are one decision away from a totally different life. And that's not just motivational fluff. That is truth. That is the power you've always had, but maybe never fully claimed. You want to change your life. You don't need more time. You don't need more resources. You don't need a sign. What you need is to decide, not to consider, not to hope, not to wish, but to decide. A real decision cuts off all other options. It's done. It's final. And when you step into that level of clarity, everything around you begins to shift, become shifted. It's not just a mindset, it's an energy, it's a signal to the universe, to your brain, to your body, that you are no longer available for the life you were tolerating. See, most people think that life happens to them, that they're just reacting to what's thrown their way. But life is not something you get through, it's something you create. And the raw material of your life is not your past or your pain, it's your decisions. You've already made decisions that have shaped your life into what it is today. Some big, some small, but they all compound. And if you're brutally honest, some of those decisions were made from fear, from doubt, from insecurity. And that's okay, because you can make a new decision right now. And that new decision has the power to override everything that came before it. The truth is, people don't lack the power to change, they lack the commitment to decide. Why? Because decisions are scary. Real decisions come with consequences. They demand action, they create friction. And most people would rather stay in the comfort of a known misery than step into the unknown possibility of greatness. But comfort is a liar. Comfort is the silent killer of dreams. It tells you that tomorrow is a better time to decide. It tells you that you're not ready. It tells you that you're fine where you are. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You feel it. That tension in your gut, that restlessness in your soul, that's your true self begging you to rise. And it starts with a decision. You don't transform your life by changing everything at once. You transform it by changing one thing, deciding with absolute certainty that enough is enough, that you will no longer accept less than what you're capable of, that you are done playing small, done settling, done waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is a myth. The only time you have is now. This breath, this moment, this heartbeat, and what you decide to do with it determines everything that comes next. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem unstoppable. They're not special, they're not lucky. They made decisions. They decided to keep going when others quit. They decided to believe when there was no evidence. They decided to rise when life knocked them down. And you can too. Because greatness is not something you're born with, it's something you choose, and you choose it one decision at a time. You want to lose the weight? Decide, not try. Decide, you want to leave that toxic relationship. Decide, you want to build that business, write that book, pursue that dream. Decide, when you make a real decision, your brain finds a way, your body follows. The people, the resources, the ideas, they start showing up. Why? Because you've made the internal shift that changed your external reality. We live in a world of distraction, of constant noise, of endless options. And all of it is designed to pull you away from your power. But when you get quiet, when you get still, when you stop looking outside for validation and start looking inside for direction, you realize the truth. You've always known what you needed to do. The real issue was never not knowing. It was not deciding, because decisions require courage. They require clarity. They require you to let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be. And that's terrifying for most people. But if you want to live a life that's extraordinary, you've got to do what ordinary people won't. You've got to decide when others hesitate. You've got to move when others freeze. You've got to choose growth over comfort, freedom over fear, purpose over popularity. The decision you've been putting off, the one that scares you, the one that feels too big, too risky, too uncertain, that's the very decision that has the power to unlock your next level. The doorway to your future isn't locked. It's waiting for you to stop doubting and start deciding. Because destiny isn't written for you. It's written by you in the ink of your choices, one decision at a time. And if you want a new life, it starts not next week, not next year, not when you have more money, more time, more certainty. It starts the moment you decide you're done living below your potential. It starts the moment you decide you are no longer available for excuses, delays, or compromises. It starts the moment you claim your power and decide that your past no longer defines your future, that you are the author now, that you are the creator now, that you are the one who chooses what happens next, because your destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of decision. And the only question left is, will you decide today? Or will you keep postponing the life you were born to live? The one that's waiting on the other side of one decision you've been avoiding, doubting, delaying, questioning, overthinking, when all along, deep down, you already knew what needed to be the moment you stopped pretending you didn't know the true yourself about the self who you are and what you are no longer willing to tolerate because that's the moment everything begins to change. And it starts with one decision that says enough is enough and I will not live another day as the version of me that's shrinking, settling or hiding, because from this point forward I decide to. Indecision is the silent killer of dreams. It doesn't show up like fear screaming in your face. It doesn't knock down your door and throw your life into chaos overnight. No, it's subtle. It creeps in quietly, and before you know it, it's wrapped itself around your potential and strangled it. Think of the biggest obstacle to success as failure or rejection or not having the right resources. That's not true. The greatest threat to your future is hesitation. It's sitting in the middle of a crossroads and refusing to move. Indecision is the death zone between where you and where you want to be. Most people don't fail because they made the wrong decision. They fail because they made none at all. They wait, they overthink, they analyze everything 10 different ways. They call it being cautious, being smart and responsible. But the truth, they're scared. They're scared of making a mistake, scared of what people will think, scared of not getting it perfect. And in that fear, they forget that not deciding is a decision in itself, a decision to stay stuck, a decision to let life happen to them instead of through them. You know what indecision really is? It's the mind trying to protect you. It says, let's hold off until we're sure. Let's wait until the timing is right. But perfect timing is a myth. Certainty is an illusion. Life doesn't hand you clarity on a silver platter. You earn clarity through action. You gain certainty by moving, by choosing, by doing something and learning from it. You don't get stronger by thinking about lifting weights. You get stronger by picking them up, by feeling the resistance. That's how your decision-making muscle grows. When you live in indecision, you become reactive instead of proactive. You're not steering the wheel. You're just drifting wherever life pushes you. You become a product of your circumstances instead of the architect of your destiny. And the worst part, you convince yourself that you're being wise, being mature, being patient, but really you're just scared of what happens if you commit and it doesn't work out. So you stay in the maybe I'll leave that job. Maybe I'll start the business. Maybe I'll have that tough conversation. Maybe I'll finally go all in, but you and I both know what maybe really means. It means no with a disguise. It means you're still trying to keep one foot in the past while pretending you're stepping into your future. You cannot create a new life in limbo. You cannot claim your power while you're still sitting on the fence. Greatness requires decisiveness. Leaders decide, winners decide, game changers decide, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Because the truth is, every major breakthrough you've ever had in your life came from a decision. A moment where you stopped letting fear vote. A moment where you got sick and tired of the indecision, the excuses, the waiting, and you just said, I'm done. This is it. I'm making a move. That's the moment where power shows up. That's the moment life starts working for you instead of against you. Indecision creates anxiety. It creates stress. It drains your energy. How many times have you felt stuck? Not because the path was unclear, because you wouldn't choose one. Your brain spins, your emotions drain, your confidence erodes, not because something bad happened, because you refuse to take command. The moment you decide, you really decide, you eliminate all that mental noise, you cut through the fog. Even if it's not the perfect decision, at least you're moving, at least you're growing, at least you're in motion, and motion creates momentum, and momentum changes everything. People say, but what if I make the wrong decision? Let me tell you something, there's no such thing as the perfect decision. Every path has challenge, every choice is risk. But the worst decision is indecision, because it guarantees one thing: nothing changes, you don't evolve, you don't discover what you're really made of. You just keep circling the same mental drain, hoping life will get better while you stay in the same place. You've got to stop pretending you need more time. You don't need more time, you need more courage. You need more clarity, and clarity doesn't come from standing still. It comes from stepping forward. If you make a decision it doesn't work, you course correct, you learn, you adjust, but at least now you've got feedback, at least now you're gaining experience, and experience is the real teacher. You can't master anything you avoid. You can't win a race you never run. So stop acting like waiting will make you stronger. It won't. Only boldness builds that strength. Only decision builds that certainty. And that certainty becomes the foundation of your new life. Every time you hesitate, every time you overthink, every tell yourself you'll decide tomorrow, you're robbing yourself of progress. You're choosing the illusion of safety over the reality of growth. And deep down, you know it. You feel the weight of that hesitation. You feel the drag of that unmade choice, Hans. It drains you. And it keeps you small. Because indecision doesn't just block progress, it erodes self-trust. Every day you don't choose, you send a message to yourself that says, I don't trust my own judgment. I don't believe I'm ready. And when you do that long enough, you start to live like someone who's powerless, who's stuck, who's a victim of their own fear, when in truth you have everything it takes to make a decision and move your life forward. If only you would stop waiting for perfect and start acting with purpose, because life doesn't reward the hesitant, it rewards the bold, and boldness is not about being fearless. It's about choosing in the face of fear, moving in the face of uncertainty, deciding even when your knees are shaking, because that's where your power lies. That's where transformation begins. And the longer you delay, the more you drift from the person you're meant to be, until one day they wake up and realize that indecision didn't just cost you time, it cost you identity, confidence, opportunity, and the life that was waiting on the other side of a choice you were too afraid to, when deep down you already knew what needed to be done, but you let fear speak louder than your truth, louder than your vision, louder than your purpose, and the price of that silence is a life unclaimed, unlived, unloved by the version of you that knows it's time to rise, time to act, time to stop circling the same fear and start commanding your future with one choice, one commitment, one decision that finally breaks the chains of delay and says, from this point forward, I will life my lot, give away to indecision, because I am not here to drift. I am here to decide and to move boldly in the direction of the life I was born for. And it all begins the moment I decide talk. Let's talk about pain, not the kind you can medicate, not the kind you can distract yourself from with a Netflix binge or scroll through social media. I'm talking about the kind of pain that keeps you up at night, the kind that gnaws at your gut because you know you're not living the life you were meant to live, the kind that doesn't go away because it's not surface level. It's rooted in the gap between your potential and your reality. And let me tell you something, most people won't see that pain, that very thing you're trying to numb, ignore, or outrun. It's not your wake-up call. It's your catalyst. It's life screaming at you. You're meant for more than this. Most people think they need motivation to change. They wait for inspiration, for the right book, the right mentor, the right timing. But real transformation rarely begins with inspiration. It begins with pain. It begins with the breaking point. That moment when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. That's the ignition point. That's when something shifts inside you, when your standards change, when you stop accepting the excuses, the mediocrity, the lies you've been telling yourself. And that moment, as painful as it is where your new life begins. Pain has a purpose. It's not random. It's not punishment. It's feedback. It's the universe's way of saying, hey, this isn't it. Wake up. The problem is most people don't listen. They ignore the signals. They downplay the frustration. They settle. They normalize the dysfunction, the unhappiness, the disappointment. They say, it's not that bad. I'll be fine. It could be worse. And what they're really doing is negotiating with their potential, bargaining with their destiny, trying to justify staying in a life that no longer fits them. But the pain doesn't lie. The pain tells the truth. The pain says, you're made for more. Think back to the moments that changed you. The real moments. Not the ones where everything was going well. The moments that broke you open. The betrayal. The loss. The rock bottom. The failure. The rejection. That's where your character was forged. That's where the illusion shattered. That's where the old version of you began to die and something greater started to emerge. Without pain, you would have stayed asleep. You would have kept playing small, staying comfortable, living in the story that someday things would get better. Pain interrupts that story. It snaps you out of denial and into decision. It forces you to confront what you've been avoiding, to ask deeper questions, to look yourself in the mirror and say, is this who I really am? Is this the life I really want? Am I willing to keep living this way? And the moment you say, no, not anymore, that's power. That's when pain becomes fuel. That's when suffering turns into strategy. That's when you stop being the victim of your life and become the author of it. Pain builds you if you let it. It strips away the illusions, the distractions, the ego. It humbles you. It clarifies you. It burns off the inessential and brings you face to face with what truly matters. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You uncover resilience buried beneath the fear. you begin to realize that the pain didn't come to break you, it came to wake you. Because what we don't change, we choose. And pain is the alarm clock that tells you it's time to choose something different. Some people run from pain their whole lives. They chase comfort, certainty, safety. But comfort is where dreams go to die. Nothing grows there. You want to change your body, it's going to hurt. You want to build a business, it's going to be uncomfortable. You want to heal your trauma, repair your relationships, create a legacy. You're going to have to face parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. Growth is painful, but so is staying stuck. So is pretending. So is settling for a life that doesn't light your soul on fire. You have to choose your pain, the discipline, or the pain of regret, the pain of facing yourself, or the pain of losing yourself, the pain of becoming, or the pain of pretending. And here's what most people miss. Pain doesn't last. It's temporary. It comes to deliver a message, to push you into motion, to break the spell of complacency. But if you ignore it, if you resist it, if you try to numb it, that's when it lingers. That's when it becomes suffering. See, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering is what happens when you stay in pain without learning the lesson. But when you lean in, when you listen, when you use the pain as fuel, you transform it. And on the other side of that pain is freedom, power, peace, alignment. That's the trade. But you have to be willing to go through it. People think healing feels good. Sometimes it does. But most of the time, it feels like breaking apart, like letting go of who you used to be, like losing pieces of your identity that were built around survival. That's not easy, but it's necessary because transformation isn't about tweaking the surface. It's about reinventing from the inside out. And nothing triggers that reinvention more powerfully than pain. Pain is the beginning. It's the breakdown before the breakthrough. It's the pressure that forges the diamond. It's the fire that refines the gold. And if you're in pain right now, I want you to understand you're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And what feels like the end may just be the beginning of the version of you that you've always been destined to become. The version that was never going to emerge through comfort or convenience, but only through the storm, only through the fire, only through the kind of pain that doesn't destroy you, but introduces you to your truth, your courage, your calling, and the strength that's been waiting inside you all along for a reason, for a moment, for a spark, for the kind of wake-up call that only pain could deliver, because without it, you might still be sleepwalking through a life that's beneath you, a story that's not worthy of your soul, a path that keeps you safe but not fulfilled. And the moment you stop fearing that pain and start listening to it is the moment you unlock the transformation it came to give you, and everything starts to shift when you finally say to yourself, this pain is not the end of me. It's the beginning of who I was born to be. And from that moment on, you walk through the fire not to be consumed by it, but to rise from it and become something greater, something truer, something unstoppable that no longer needs to run from pain, but uses it to build the life that was waiting on the other side all along. And it all starts the moment you up. Your life is a direct reflection of the standards you've chosen to accept. Not what you want, not what you wish for, but what you're willing to tolerate. Standards drive decisions, and decisions moment by moment, day by day, are what shape the quality of your life. You show me a person's standards, and I'll show you their future. Not because of fate, not because of luck, but because we will always inevitably act in alignment with the identity we've accepted as our own. When you raise your standards, your decisions follow. And when your decisions change, everything changes. Most people think their decisions are shaped by circumstances, by what's happening around them, but that's not true. Two people can go through the same storm and come out completely different. One breaks down, the other breaks through. Why? Standards. One person decided that no matter what, they would show up, fight, push, grow. The other decided to shrink, to blame, to wait. It wasn't the event that shaped them. It was their standard of how they respond to challenge, of what they expect from themselves, of what they're willing to accept from life. Your standards are the invisible script that runs your entire show. They tell you what you believe you deserve, what you'll settle for, what you'll go after, and what you'll avoid. If your standard is to always show up 100%, you'll find a way even when you're tired, even when it's hard. If your standard is to do enough to get by, then that's exactly what you'll do, and that's exactly the life you'll get. Because life gives you what you demand of it, not what you hope for. Most people never consciously choose their standards. They inherit them from parents, teachers, peers, culture. They absorb them without questioning. And then they wonder why they keep making the same decisions, living the same year over and over again. The only way to change your life is to upgrade your standards. That means deciding at your core, this is who I am now. This is what I accept. This is what I will no longer tolerate. That's not a wish, that's a line in the sand. And once you draw that line, your decisions begin to shift. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop playing tug of war with your potential. You stop giving energy to the things that don't meet your new identity. Think about it. A person who has a standard of being fit and healthy doesn't decide every morning whether or not to work out. It's not a debate. It's a done deal. They move because that's who they are. A person with a standard of financial freedom doesn't randomly blow money and then wonder why they're broke. They have discipline. They have a plan. They make decisions that honor the life they're committed to building. It's not about rules. It's about identity. Standards shape who you believe yourself to be, and who you believe yourself to be drives every choice you make. If you want to change your decisions, stop focusing on the behavior and start focusing on the standard. Raise the standard and the behavior will follow. You won't need willpower when something is non-negotiable. You won't need motivation when it becomes part of your DNA. That's the power of standards. They remove the gray area, they eliminate the back and forth, they create certainty. And from that certainty, you begin to make powerful, aligned decisions. The truth is, you've already experienced this. There have been moments in your life where something clicked, where you finally got fed up, where you said, that's it, no more. Maybe it was in a relationship. Maybe it was with your body, your career, your finances. Whatever it was, you made a new decision, but that decision didn't come out of thin air. It came from a shift in your standard. You decided the old level was no longer acceptable. And in that moment, everything changed. The pain became power, the frustration became fuel. You raised your bar, and life began to rise to meet you. But here's the thing, you can't raise your standards once and expect them to hold. You have to reinforce them daily, you have to protect them, you have to body them. Because the world will always try to pull you back to average. Comfort will seduce you, doubt will whisper in your ear, people around you will question your ambition, not because they want to hurt you, but because your elevation exposes their own stagnation. That's why most people don't raise their standards. It's lonely up there at first, it's uncomfortable, it requires effort, but the payoff is freedom, power. When your standards rise, your results rise. When your standards rise, your circle changes. When your standards rise, you start making decisions that serve your future, not your fears. It all begins with a decision to expect more from yourself, not from a place of shame or pressure, but from a place of truth. The truth that you were not born to be average. The truth that you have more inside you than you've been showing the world. And the truth that the only thing separating you from the life you desire is the standard you've accepted. And if you're willing to raise that standard, not once, not temporarily, but permanently, you'll start to make decisions that reflect the greatness inside you, not the limitations around you. That's when the shift happens. That's when alignment happens. That's when your life begins to reflect the power and the purpose and the vision that's been waiting to come alive the moment you said to yourself, this is who I am now, and backed it up with action, commitment, and the kind of decisions that don't just change your day, they change your destiny because they come from a place of identity, of ownership, of inner certainty that no matter what happens around you, the standard has been set and everything else must rise to meet it or be left behind as you step forward into the version of yourself who no longer chooses based on comfort, but based on the calling that refuses to be ignored and will only be answered through the standards you demand and the decisions you make from this moment forward as the true architect of your life who no longer accepts average as an option and is now fully aligned with the future you were always meant to create through every standard, every choice, every action. There comes a time in your life when you have to make a decision so powerful, so irreversible, that it forces you to move forward with absolute certainty. No back door, no plan B, no safety net. That's what burn the boats means. It's not just a metaphor, it's a philosophy, a way of life. It means you're all in, not 70%. Not when it's convenient, the timing is perfect or you feel ready. It means you've made a choice so real, so raw, so undeniable that the only direction left is forward. Burning the boats is about eliminating the option of retreat. It's about stepping into a place of such deep commitment that failure is not an outcome. It's simply not allowed to exist. Think of the great warriors who landed on foreign shores and set their ships on fire. Why? Because they knew the moment their men saw those flames, there was no going back. Win or die, conquer or be conquered. And something primal awakens in a human being when there's no escape hatch. When the mind knows the only way out is through, that's when your true strength shows up. That's when your resourcefulness kicks in. That's when excuses die and execution begins. Most people live with one foot in and one foot out. They keep the back door open just in case it gets hard, just in case it's uncomfortable, just in case they fail. And so they never go all in. They never commit with full force. They live in a permanent state of hesitation, always calculating, always waiting, always preparing, but never deciding. And you know what that does? It kills momentum. It dilutes energy. It weakens results. You don't build greatness by hedging your bets. You build greats by deciding that there is no alternative, by saying, this is it. This is the path, and I will either succeed or die trying. You can't move like someone with options and expect the results of someone with resolve. When your mind knows there's a way out, it will take it the moment things get hard. That's not weakness, it's survival. That's why burning the boats is so powerful. It bypasses survival mode and ignites creation mode. Now you're not operating from fear, you're operating from decision, from identity, from total immersion. That's where the breakthrough happens. Because let's be real, if you always leave a way out, you'll use it. You'll rationalize, you'll say, at least I tried. It wasn't the right time. I'll come back to it later, but later becomes never. And trying becomes a lifestyle of almost. Burning the boats is about removing almost from your vocabulary. It's about going from, I'll try, I must, from I hope to, I commit. It's the decision that says, I'm not interested in comfort, I'm obsessed with outcome. When you burn the boats, your psychology changes, you stop looking for reasons why it won't work, and you start demanding results. You start asking better questions. How do I make this happen? What's the next move? Who do I need to become to pull this off? You activate a deeper level of creativity, courage, and resilience, because now you're not entertaining the idea of giving up. That's not on the table. The only question is, how far are you willing to go? How deep are you willing to dig? How committed are you to becoming the version of yourself who finishes what they start, no matter what it takes? People think commitment is a feeling. It's not. It's a choice backed by action. It's deciding ahead of time that your future matters more than your fears, that your destiny matters more than your discomfort, that your mission matters more than your mood. And when you burn the boats, you eliminate the possibility of letting those fears, moods, and distractions drive your decisions. You cut the cord to your excuses, you destroy the bridge to your old story, and you take full ownership of what comes next. You want transformation, you want to rewrite your life, burn the boat, stop waiting for permission, stop clinging to what's familiar, stop hiding behind logic, and start trusting your conviction. Most people are more committed to their limitations than to their liberation, more attached to what's safe than what's possible. That's why they never taste freedom, that's why they never break through. Because freedom comes with a price of full commitment, no fallback plan,
No maybe.
no escape route, just a line in the sand and a fire behind you that says, I am never going back. And let's be honest, there are some things in your life you need to burn right now. Some boats you've been dragging around that have no place in your future. Old identities, old stories, old excuses, old patterns, relationships that shrink you, environments that drain you, behaviors that sabotage you. They're anchors, not vessels. You can't reach your next level while clinging to your last one. At some point, you have to cut the rope. And you have to set it all on fire and say, that version of me no longer exists. This is who I am now. You want clarity? Burn the boats. You want momentum? Burn the boats. You want real change? The kind that sticks, the kind that elevates everything around you, then stop playing it safe. Stop dipping your toe in the water. Stop asking for guarantees. Go all in, not halfway, not part-time, not when it's easy. Go all in, especially when it's hard. That's where the power is. That's where your edge lies. That's where you stop being a dabbler and become a door, a force, a presence that can no longer be ignored because you've eliminated every option except the one that demands your full strength, your full heart, your full focus, your full self. And once you do that, once you cross that line and the smoke rises behind you from the boats you burned, something shifts forever, something unlocks inside of you that only shows up when there's no way back, only forward, only through. Only the life that's been waiting for you to finally get serious, finally get honest, finally decide that nothing less than all of you will be enough to claim it, and nothing more than everything will be acceptable from this point forward, because you've made the decision that this is it. We think change takes years. That success is some long, winding journey with 100 steps and 1,000 strategies. We believe we have to suffer for decades to earn transformation. But that's not how it works. Your entire future, everything you want, everything you're meant for, can begin in a single moment, a moment of clarity. a moment of decision, a moment where you stop negotiating with fear and start listening to the truth inside you that's been whispering all along you were made for more. It's not about how long you've been trying. It's not about how much pain you've endured. It's not about how many books you've read or how many plans you've made. Change doesn't wait for perfection. It waits for decision. It waits for the moment when you finally say, enough playing small, enough tolerating mediocrity, enough living by someone else's standards. That's the moment your future begins, not tomorrow, not when the timing is right, not when you feel ready. Right now. The truth is, life doesn't shift in gradual inches. It shifts in powerful moments. Moments when you finally see your life with raw honesty and make a choice so definitive, so emotionally charged that there is no going back. That's when you move from wanting change to becoming change. That's when momentum kicks in. That's when the universe starts moving things on your behalf. Because now you're aligned, not just in thought, but in heart, in body, in soul. We're taught to wait for the right season. We're taught to build our future like it's some distant castle on a hill we might reach if we work long enough. But your future isn't built years from now. It's built in moments. Every time you choose courage over comfort, every time you act in alignment with your highest self, every time you make a decision that reflects your potential rather than your past, that's a brick laid in the foundation of the life you're here to build. Most people miss those moments because they're too busy analyzing, doubting, hesitating. They wait for certainty, they wait for guarantees. But life doesn't reward the hesitant, it rewards the bold. The ones who understand that risk is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. Because inside risk is growth, inside uncertainty is possibility, and inside that single moment of decision lies the entire future you've been dreaming about. There's a version of you on the other side of that moment, a version that's already living the life you crave. They're not some stranger, they're not some fantasy, they're you with a different decision. One choice, one shift in energy, one line in the sand. You're not as far away as you think. You're one powerful moment from everything changing. People ask, how do I turn my life around? And the answer is always the same, one moment at a time. Not in theory, not in your head, but in action, real decisions backed by real movement. You don't change your identity with wishful thinking. You change it by deciding who you are and proving it to yourself now. Not by talking about the future, but by stepping into it fully, unapologetically, relentlessly. That's the difference between people who talk and people who transform. You've already had moments like that. Moments you'll never forget. Moments that split your life into before and after. Maybe it was the day you hit rock bottom. Maybe it was the moment you looked in the mirror and couldn't stand what you saw. Maybe it was the second you realized no one was coming to save you. And that was the most empowering truth of all. Those moments had power because they were real. They weren't filtered. They weren't rehearsed. They were raw. And in that rawness, you were reborn. That's the gift of the present moment. It holds the keys to your entire future. But you've got to meet it fully, not half-heartedly, not with one foot still in the past. You've got to bring your entire being into this moment and say, this is the one. This is where everything changes, not because circumstances are perfect, but because you decided to be. And that's what makes the difference between those who live on fire and those who live on autopilot. Those who live on fire don't wait to feel ready. They decide they are. They don't wait for permission. They give it to themselves. They don't wait for the world to validate their worth. They show the world what they're worth through action, through presence, through the power of a moment fully seized. You don't need another 10-step plan. You don't need more research. You need a decision, a moment of truth, a commitment so real that your brain, your body, your soul align. Because when that happens, everything else follows. The resources show up, the clarity appears, the strength multiplies, but it all begins with one thing, a moment that defines you, that reshapes your future, that changes everything. Not because the world changed, but because you did. In that moment, you become the architect, the builder, the leader, the creator of your destiny, because your future was never some distant dream. It was always right here, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be built, waiting to be born through the power of a single decision made fully, made now, made from the fire inside you that refuses to die, that refuses to shrink, that refuses to settle for anything less than a life that reflects the greatness already inside you. And it all begins when you stop waiting for someday and realize that the moment you've been waiting for is this one. You've been looking for answers outside of yourself. You've been waiting for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, the approval, the blueprint, the mentor who will hand you the golden key. But the truth is, and it's a truth that will both liberate you and challenge everything you've been taught, the power has been there the entire time, waiting, dormant, maybe, buried under years of doubt, fear, and conditioning. But it's there. It's always been there. You're not broken. You're not missing anything. You're not lacking the capacity to change your life. What you need is not outside of you. It's within. The real battle isn't out there in the world. It's not with your circumstances, your environment, your past, or even other people. The real battle is internal. It's between the part of you that knows you're capable of more and the part that's afraid you're not enough. That inner conflict is what keeps you stuck. That tension is what keeps you second guessing. But here's what no one told you, that voice of doubt. It's a program, a story you adopted probably long ago, but your power is not in the story. Your power is in the ability to rewrite it. You see, we all have this inner reservoir of strength, resilience, passion, and wisdom, but most people never tap into it because they're waiting to feel powerful before they act. That's the trap. You don't feel powerful and then act. You act, and that's what unlocks the power. Power is activated by movement, by decision, by ownership. You don't discover who you are through thinking. You discover who you are through doing, through leaning into the edge of discomfort, through stepping into the unknown and realizing you don't need someone to rescue. You need to rise for yourself. There's a version of you, stronger, bolder, more focused, more alive, already living inside you. But that version doesn't come out in comfort. It doesn't show up when you're waiting for permission. It shows up when you challenge yourself, when you stop playing small, when you take responsibility for every part of your life and say, this is mine to change. You want to feel powerful? Start owning everything. Stop outsourcing your self-worth to outcomes. Stop handing your happiness to other people. Stop blaming your past. That's not where your power is. Your power is in this moment, in this breath, in this decision. Think about this. What if nothing needed to change in your life right now for you to feel powerful? What if the only thing that needed to change was your perception of who you are? Because when you believe you're powerless, you act small, you settle, you tolerate, you shrink. But when you remember who you really are, when you remember that you were born with a purpose, that you are not here by accident, that life is not happening to you but through you, that's when everything starts to shift. That's when the energy changes. That's when you walk into a room and something about you is undeniable. But you've got to claim it. You've got to own it. You've got to stop waiting for someone else to see it in you and start seeing it in yourself. Waiting for external validation is a trap. It's a leash around your soul. You'll never feel free if your confidence is dependent on other people's approval. True power comes from alignment. When your actions match your truth, when your decisions reflect your highest self, not your insecurities. That's when your power becomes unshakable, because it's not based on status or titles or what's trending. It's based on who you are. And you don't have to find yourself. You have to remove the layers that aren't you. The fear, the doubt, the guilt, the shame, the lies you were told about what you could or couldn't do, the moments you were made to feel like you weren't enough. Peel that off, get real, because underneath all of it is your power, that fire, that force, that hunger. That's who you are. You've been playing a role for so long, you forgot what it feels like to be unapologetic you, but it's still there. It's just been waiting for you to remember, to return, to stop trying to become and instead start to reclaim. And don't think power means being loud or aggressive or in control of everything. True power is quiet certainty. It's presence. It's the ability to walk into chaos and stay grounded. It's the choice to lead yourself before trying to lead anyone else. It's the strength to say no to things that shrink you. It's the courage to say yes to things that scare you. Power is not about dominating, it's about aligning. When you're in alignment with your values, your purpose, your truth, there's no force stronger than that. You move differently, you speak differently, you don't beg for opportunities, you create them. And here's what's wilding: the more you tap into your power, the more you inspire others to do the same. You become a mirror, a catalyst. You show people what's possible, not by preaching, but by living it, by being the example. That's how change spreads. That's how impact happens. It doesn't start with some big event. It starts with one person who finally decides to stop waiting and start owning. One person who refuses to betray themselves for comfort. One person who says, no more dimming, no more pretending, no more fear running the show. I'm taking the wheel and I'm driving from a place of power. And that moment, that decision, that shift, it becomes the foundation for everything that follows, because once you've tasted your own power, you can't unknow it. You can't unfeel it. You can't go back to being someone who settles for less than what you were created for. And the only question that remains is whether you're finally ready to stop looking outside. Stop waiting for permission. Stop asking for a map and realize that everything you've been searching for is already alive inside you, waiting for you to stop doubting, start deciding, and step into the unstoppable force you were born to be. Every moment of your life has been building to this one. Every setback, every disappointment, every doubt, it's all been preparing you to realize one undeniable truth, so you are one decision away from a new life. Not a someday life, not a maybe life, a life that's waiting for you to claim it now. You've seen how decisions shape destiny. You've faced the reality that indecision is the enemy. You've understood that pain, while brutal, is also your invitation to rise. You've learned that your standards drive the quality of your choices, that there's no transformation without commitment, and that if you truly want change, you must burn the boats, leave no option but forward. And most importantly, you've remembered the deepest truth of all the power is already in you. There's nothing you need to borrow, beg for, or become. It's already yours. This moment right now, this is your invitation to act, to step, to decide. And once you decide, truly decide, the world begins to rearrange itself in response to your courage. So stop waiting, stop hesitating. You are not here to live a watered down version of your potential. You are here to lead, to love, to build, to break through, to awaken that unstoppable fire inside you. You are here to create a life that reflects the greatness already living in your soul, because you are one decision away from a completely new life. Now go claim it. Thank you.